let's talk about lexical this. Bind, call, and apply. Yeah, there is a very common job interview question. What's the difference between bind, call, and apply? I got the feeling some people learn that just for the interviewing process, yeah? And they completely forgot how to use it. But today we'll play a bit with these things. So, first of all, we got a user called user1 with a couple of properties, first name, last name, blah, blah, blah. And then we got a method inside of the object called getScores in plural. And that method, it will receive how many arguments, guys? We don't know. That's correct, Buket. We don't know. Could be none, could be one, could be a million, right? So that function will essentially build a message. Yeah? We'll get the scores of a given user. So first of all, using lexical this, we'll access first and last name, and then we'll append the scores of that name, right? So if I run this snippet, you can ignore user2. I can comment it now, just to focus on the important parts of the algorithm. So if we run this example, what's the value of lexical this? User one. Why?
Because it is function.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, function object created.
Because the user one is calling.
That's correct, Walter.
Yeah.
Remember that lexical this referred to the object that invoked the function. So which object invoked the function? Was user one. So then this equals user one. This dot first name equals user one dot first name. This dot last name equals user one dot last name. If you are not convinced about that, or you are not following me, or you think I'm talking Chinese, check last Friday workshop where we explain that in depth. Yeah, right. So that was the first thing, lexical this, and then the score. So I mean, there is nothing surprising or nothing new at all. Let's just run the example. The scores for Roger Federer, blah 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 blah. Yeah, something interesting is what type of data scores is. It's an array, correct. Are we gathering or spreading?
So we are gathering.
We are gathering, of course.
List to an array.
That's correct, Nico. We got an unlimited list of arguments and we gather them all into an array. Yeah. However, look, template literals is smart enough to somehow display an array. You see? It looks well formatted like a string, but in reality, if we had a breakpoint on line number 7, you will see that scores is clearly an array. Yeah? But it's still okay, right, to display some basic details about our players. All right, so that was the first thing. And now, the second question was, I would like to change the problem, and I would like to type .call, and as part of .call, I will parse user2, comma, 61, 82. So, what happened now, guys? What's the value of lexical this? User 1 or user 2? And why?
User 2.
It is user 2. Why, Luigi?
Because with the method call, we pass an argument where we reassign the value of this.
Yes, that's correct. So, another classic job interview question is, can we change the value of lexical this? And the answer is, yes, you can. Yeah? The way to override the default behavior of lexical this is using bind / call / apply. We'll see the differences in a minute. But whenever you use any of these three methods, in reality, look, in here, do you think I'm invoking the function or not? So if I run the snippet, will it return something or not?
No.
Yeah? So are we displaying the scores of Federer or Nadal? Yes, that's correct. Yeah? So in reality, That's an alternative. That's a different way of invoking, executing functions. Yeah? So we execute getScores function. However, lexical this refers not to the default one, user one, but we are overriding it to user two. Yeah? Of course, we can pass something here in line. Look. That says an object, right? I can pass whatever I want here, and if we run it again, it does work. Yeah? Can I pass something absolutely weird like string, hello Vilius?
You can, but undefined and undefined.
Look. Yeah? So let's add a breakpoint on line number 6. So, in other words, be careful, guys, because we said that last week. What's the value of lexical this? We said it's an object, and it's generally speaking an object. However, you can do weird things with it, right? If you overwrite it, yeah, you can break it easily. So just be careful. Be careful. That's obviously a weird practice. So lexical this should be an object. Yeah, user two, user whatever. Can we do that? Yeah, it's a bit pointless, right? But definitely. So we said, okay, call the getScores function of user one, but be careful, because instead of using as lexical this user one, please use user one. All right? It's a bit weird, but it's still okay, right? Still valid, of course. So that's the idea behind call. So call accepts at least one argument. The first one is lexical this, and then we can pass a comma-separated list of arguments. So all the arguments from the second one to the end, yeah, every argument apart from the first one will be passed as arguments to our function. That's why when we call it with user 2, scores will be an array of 61 and 82, because we are passing it here. Does it make sense? Yeah? It's not that complicated. So this is call. Again, to recap, call, first argument, the new context, new lexical this, and then a comma-separated list of arguments. Then we got apply. What's the difference between call and apply? They're very similar. They do the same thing, but the syntax is slightly different.
Apply takes an array of arguments.
That's correct. That's correct. Apply receives an array of arguments. In other words, call can send any number of arguments. Apply sends 2 arguments. The first one, lexical this, same as call, but the second one is an array with all the arguments. So in other words, if we run this example, it will still work. You see? So now, there is a classic thing I never understood in job interviews when you ask the candidate, what's the difference between call and apply? And a common response is, oh, one of them accepts an array and the other one a comma separated list of argument, but I don't remember which one, right? So that, don't say that. That's horrible. So there is a very simple way to remember forever which one uses an array and which one uses a comma separated list. Look, call starts with C, right? So call receives a comma separated list of arguments. Yeah? You'll never ever forget in your life. Call, comma, and apply start with A of array. Yeah? You don't necessarily have to explain that in that way, but keep it in mind, right? So simple. Right. So call and apply. And the last one, which is a bit special. Well, before going to the last one, to be honest, today in 2019, it feels a bit weird to have call and apply, because with the REST operator, we can easily move from comma to array and vice versa, gather and spread. But again, the REST operator is a new thing in JavaScript, right? It was released in 2015. before the spread operator, having these two alternatives, it was very convenient because it wasn't that simple to transform an array to a comma-separated list of arguments and vice versa. So we have these two methods for historical reasons. Right, and the last one, bind. So what's bind doing, guys? So bind, the API is the same as call. In other words, we pass a comma-separated list of arguments. Yeah, I don't have any mnemotechnic rules for that. You have to remember that one, right? So bind is like call. And if you have any idea of how to remember that, I'll be more than happy to listen to it. So bind, again, is same as call, right? Lexical this, and then the comma-separated list of arguments. However, there is a very important difference. I'm sure you're a bit more familiar with bind because some of you have been using it as part of the React components, yeah, to avoid problems with lexical this. So the difference between bind, call, and apply is that call and apply execute the function, invoke the function. However, bind don't execute the function. It doesn't run the code. It doesn't run anything. Only saves a reference to the function. In other words, you can do that. My function equals, and then you execute it later on. Yeah? You only keep a reference to the function with the new lexical this. So then later on, at any time, we can invoke it, and at that time, we'll be using our new lexical this. Yeah? That's the way bind works. And then, if we run that, so it will run the details of Nadal, and it will pass this score, 61 and 66. Correct. You see? But if we remove the line number 17, nothing will happen. You see, undefined. Get the scores function doesn't run at all, right? So that's the way it works. Bind. I'll tell you something. Can I remove the arguments? That's another good interview question. Can I put them here?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. Let's see if it works. It does work. And can I do something crazier? Can I mix them? So can I pass, for instance, one argument here and then two arguments later on?
Yes.
So how many scores do we have now? 3, correct. Which is the first one? 79, that's correct. That's absolutely correct. So that's one of the beautifulness of, bind, right? We can mix things. So we can pass arguments when we declare the reference to the function with a new lexical this, and / or we can pass arguments at the time we do execute the function. Yeah. So why when we create a React component, some of you do constructor, you remember that, right? And then this dot update score equals this dot update score dot bind this. You remember that, right? I told you many times I'm not a big fan of that pattern. You did that because then on the render you got a button and the button has on click, and on click equals this dot update score. Why? Because score. By default, who will be invoking update score? We don't know. React, JavaScript. Yeah? Whenever we click on the button, either React or JavaScript under the hood will invoke the function. Without that line, because we won't have control on who invokes the function, in reality, lexical this will change. Will refer to whoever is invoking the function. However, if we do that, that's a way to control the value of lexical this. We say, hey, wait a minute. Be careful, because whenever we invoke update score, whoever does that, in reality, keep a reference to my local lexical this. Yeah, that's why it works. And that's why this is valid. However, again, remember why I don't like that. Because if we rename update score, we need to rename it 3 times. Yeah, otherwise we may forget if we rename update score to hello, if we forget to do that, it won't work, right? It feels a bit, you know, unnecessary.
So, so that function in the construction, when you bind
Yep.
first this, is creating, the first time is creating the object. I mean, is binding the
It's binding, correct? It's binding.
So this is gonna be the real object.
Yeah, it's going to be.
Later when you
Yeah,
call
yeah,
that
that's correct. That's
object,
correct. That's
you're gonna
correct.
remember just that.
That's correct. That's correct. You are somehow overwriting, because in reality you'll have that, right? You have a update score, this dot set score 800, right? No, set not the score, set the state score 801. That means you are cheating probably, right? So if we do that, that means that whenever we invoke, anyone invokes get a update score, I don't care who is invoking it. In reality, I'm going to override my own function to make sure that we always use my lexical this. So that means that whoever invokes update score, in reality lexical this will always refer to the lexical this of the React class. Yeah. So that's the way it works. Again, I'm not a big fan, first of all, because you need to maintain it multiple times, and then because it's maybe not obvious to understand what I'm saying, right? So to me, it feels way more pragmatic to just do that. That's it, right? I don't need to mix with bind and weird things, right? I can see only one advantage, a potential advantage of using that pattern. I'll show you an example. Imagine that we don't use it. And we have a component here called Davide. And Davide can send a message. So when Davide sends a message, in reality, so we want to this dot update message. So update message, this dot set state. So, I mean, if we do that, it's easy, right? So Davide sends a message, we pass it, and we update the message in the state, no problem at all. But what happens if in reality Davide is not sending a message? Because Davide sometimes talks a lot. He sends the title, the details, yeah, and off topic. He sends multiple arguments, right? That's still okay. We can handle that. But look what we got eventually. We need to get these three arguments, and then we need to pass them here. I hope you get the point, right? This line can get a bit stressful. Many arguments to pass up and down, and of course the same thing here, blah, 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 blah. So that could be, if you got many arguments, it's nothing black or white, but I may consider doing the bind, because then my code will look much simpler. It will look like that. Yeah, look. Boom. So whenever Davide invokes the update message, that's it. Our function will receive all the arguments. We don't have to pass them manually one after the other. So that would be the only scenario where I'll consider using bind. However, don't forget that sending multiple arguments is considered a bad practice. So if we do that, that's bad. Yeah, that's bad. So if you ever need to send many details to a function, how would you do that? Well, instead of passing a huge list of comma-separated arguments,
Send one and after the control.
correct, just send an object, and then you can access any property. So let of topic equals message.offTopic. Let title equals message.title. Or, as Vilius was suggesting, we can deconstruct, yeah, either here or literally there, title, we just access the properties that we want, right? Does it make sense? Yeah, so that's pretty much the way that works. Is there any question? No?
Actually, I have one pretty stupid thing. Anyways, an array.
Yeah.
Once we run like conversion.
Yeah.
Like, to string and everything. But
Yeah.
so, like, can we change the default behavior? There's like this one, like, add a gap or something.
The default behavior of what?
In the user one, like we printed like I don't know, 79, 61, 66.
Yeah.
And we had a number which was converted to string. And
Yeah.
can we override
I don't know, Bilius, because that's the behavior of the template literals. Template literals decided to display them as a comma-separated list. If you want to set the behavior, you can always create a function that gets the array of scores and transform it into whatever. Yeah. Right. One more thing, guys. One more thing. So I hope we all agree on and understood the this behavior, right? Let me go back to the call. So again, is call receiving a comma separated list of arguments or an array? Right. Yeah, means no one listened what I said 10 minutes ago, right? Cool. So yes, thank you, Nico. It's a comma separated list. Call stands or can be replaced with comma. Array, apply, yeah? So my question now is, okay, we got that, right? So that will display the details for Nadal. Oh, sorry, wait a minute. Wait. Let me run again. Here you go. So that's okay. So it displays the details for Nadal, blah, blah, blah. But now, look at my very last change. What happened if I transform my classic function into an arrow function? Ooh. Then what?
This applies to the context one level up.
That's correct. So call, apply, and bind are extremely sexy as far as the function we're invoking is a classic function. Yeah? Or a class function in a React or non-React component. But if we use arrow function, game over. It doesn't matter how you call, apply, bind, no, that won't work, right? So as Nico suggested, in that particular scenario, these will refer to the parent context. So what do we have on the parent context, guys? Window, that's correct, Bucket, that's fantastic. In other words, it will try to do window.firstName and window.lastName. Let's see what happens if you run it. Undefined, yeah, because we have nothing on the window object. But can we do that? Which one? Both, that's correct. That's fantastic. Because if we don't put the window prefix, JavaScript will automatically add it, yeah, before the variable name. In other words, if we run that code, it should return Peter Williams 7981. That's it. You see? And now the very last question of my life. Well, hopefully not, right? No. I was a bit aggressive. So if I remove these two variables, still alive somewhere in the darkness. Yes, that's correct. Still works. Yeah. So the message is don't play with the window object. You don't have full control on it. Cool. So that was pretty much it. Any questions?
You can remove a let to run the user to put
So look at what Bilius is suggesting to make everything more complicated. He's suggesting to remove let on user 2. And then what? So what will it return? I give you three options. Option A, Peter Williams, because it was on the window object. Option B, Roger Federer. Option C, Rafa Nadal. Or option D, Donald Trump. Or undefined. Fantastic. Let's put that one as well. Yes. Undefined, or even F. Error. Yeah. I think we cover all the possibilities, right? What do you think, guys? So Walter, undefined. Luigi said Peter Williams,
Whatever was that we saved, because sorry, the broadcast is not clear, so I cannot read properly the words, but what you saved in the windows.
What you say in the Windows?
Peter Williams.
It was Peter Williams.
Yeah, okay, that's it. That's my choice.
So, Bilius, what do you think? You suggested that, right?
I suggested, no, thank you, maybe good.
Okay, no.
Or, right. No, because it looks out.
It's up, one level up.
I say C.
So, Bucket says Nadal. Anyone else? So, wait a minute. BBN agrees with Walter. Davide agrees with Luigi. And Bilius. So, Bilius joining the Italian lobby. And Sule, what did you say? So, Sule, who lived in Spain for a while, is defending Nadal. Buket and Sule. Anyone else? No? Not sure? No? All right. So, let's review the problem. So, first of all, user1.getScores, the first candidate, is clearly Federer. No one... Oh, he's probably watching some Jackie Chan movies. So, Federer is the first candidate, right? I mean, if I highlight that, it goes to Federer. But then we say, wait, I'm not done yet. Call user2. Oh, so now the candidate is Nadal. Yeah? Wait. For now, it's not Federer anymore. It's Nadal, option number 3. Yeah? Okay, no problem at all. Go to the function. And then it looks like it's going to be Nadal. However, boom, arrow function. Arrow function means I don't care what you did. I'll ignore you to the limit, to the extreme. And I'll reuse the parent context. Because there is no parent function or anything like that, this will refer to window. Window.first name and window.last name. Is there any window.first name or window.last name? No, not visually speaking, but in reality, it's still there, right? So that means that Davide, Luigi, and Bilius are right, I think. Let's try that. Yes, correct. They are right. Yeah. So the idea that Bilius originally proposed was to make user2 global, which makes sense. So look, if we
close and we open
if with a breakpoint on number 6, if we inspect this, it will have user2 probably somewhere at the bottom, right? Oh, this object is massive. But if we scroll down somewhere, I'm sure, look, you see? It added user2, but unfortunately, it's not doing this.user2.first name or this.user2.last name. Yeah? So this is not having any impact on the decision.
If we terminate the session, we close, and then we open, user2 will be the parent.
If what was that solution again? If we
If we close the window, no?
if we close the window,
And we reopen,
Yeah.
in that case, user2 will be the first.
will be undefined. User2 will be ignored. It's like if I call it Davide. So why? We are saving an object into window, and this is not looking for that object, right? Yeah, so it will work in that case, user2, you see? Then it will work. Then it will display Rafa, right? We'll see in a minute. That's it, you see? Because this refers to window. Yeah? It's a bit weird, but it's the way it works, right? So if we kill the window, which I'm not going to do that, if we kill everything and we restart, as Bilius suggested, yes, it will return undefined. Yes. But again, be careful, because this, let me refresh that, but as far as I remember, there is a weird property in this called name. Yeah? So I remember in the past playing the example with instead of first name and last name with name, I was expecting to return undefined, and it returns empty string all the time. And they say, what's going on? I never set that property. And this is because JavaScript automatically sets a name property on the window object, right? So be careful with these things. Right, we are 13 seconds out of time. Anything else? No? Cool, that was it. Thank you guys. Cheers.
Thank you.